Welcome back to the Morning Movement Show. I'm your host, Sarah Joy Gaines. Hope you're feeling great after all of that movement. And we have with us in conversation, Andy Stern. Give it up for Andy, everybody.
It's great to be here.
So good to have you here.
That was awesome, the flow.
Yeah, your first Joy Flow.
My first Joy Flow.
How you feeling?
I feel really good.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Feels good on the inside. Feels good.
It totally feels good on the inside. Yeah. And I loved weaving in the boxing. It really was like
Good compliment to each other.
Totally. The yin and the yang.
Congrats on this, by the way. This is an awesome product and
Thank you.
community you're building. So
Thank you.
honored to be a part.
So grateful you're here. And I want to ask you, because you are co-creator of Rumble Boxing, which is a global boxing
Correct.
club, right? And you're also vice president of talent and programming. But let's take it back way before all this. What's your first memory of movement? How did you get here?
Sheesh. Let's go way back to 1999.
Okay.
My dad was around 250 pounds, say, large man. Transformed his life. He did an EAS Body for Life competition, and I was mesmerized by his transformation. He dropped down to about 6.8% body fat. And in 99, it's a different world, right?
Right.
There's not everything at your fingertips. So this guy did it by just in the basement, old school weights, dieting, taking the picture with the newspaper to prove his progress was dated.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, working out a few years later once I got into it, like his gold medal for participating was on in the basement. We had like a very like rocky basement style, like pictures were all around the world, all the wall, but like the weights were rusted. Like there were sand weights. You don't actually know if it was 15 pounds. It was like a little wet,
Right.
It was, but you did it. It had grit to it, and but I was mesmerized by his journey, and that sort of just lit the fire in me to pursue it. Never expected to pursue it as a career.
Totally.
I want to put that out there. This was not like found my passion and No, I found something that I love to do.
Right.
And it just happened to connect the dots that I get to do it and make a living out of it. But I was very fortunate to be inspired with his journey, my mom as well, and surrounding myself with the right people early on allowed me to do what I'm doing today.
Yeah. Who you surround yourself with and who you are surrounded by, both just naturally.
Yes.
And then who you choose to invite in is
Yes.
so critical. How then, as you said, you didn't intend for this to become your career, but
No,
this is your career.
should be, if we're speaking truthfully, I would expect to be sitting here with like the WWE Championship, and I'd be talking about WrestleMania, and
Okay,
I'd be,
cool.
hyping up the promotion. That was the boyhood dream.
Okay.
I did go for it in 2008. I was Big Pookie from the Jersey Shore.
Amazing.
There you go. It was a very short-lived career. I loved it. I loved getting in the ring, and I love the sports and athletic, the storytelling, the ability to tell a story through the microphone, through your art, with a competitor, to really capture a crowd. And I say all that because it really parallels into what we do in
Right.
group fitness. But that journey stopped, and shortly after I was in college, and that's where we met.
Right.
And that's where I essentially found group fitness, or it found me, however you want to look at
Totally.
it.
Totally.
But it was the boyhood dream of pro wrestling that really sparked my love for sports entertainment.
Well, I feel like it's not so far off.
It's not.
And often, if we can look back at the things that maybe we wanted to be, I wanted to be a hockey player at one point.
This
in
is
time.
just not even close. But
I feel like there's some level, sports.
Sure,
sure.
yeah.
I'm like really trying to make it
next
work.
episode we get a stick. You're good.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I feel like, looking at what are the things that we wanted to be when we were growing up and how are those qualities feeding into our lives now, that could be a really impactful question to consider.
Yes.
So I appreciate you saying that. And you brought up college, which is where we met.
On Twitter.
Was it Twitter?
Formerly known.
Formerly known as Twitter.
Yes.
Formerly known as Twitter. I forgot the Twitter bit. That's where
that
it
was
was. Because you were, before you were the mayor, everybody should know,
I was the professor.
he was the professor, Professor Stern.
Yes.
And
yes.
I was, oh my goodness, what was my, I was the dean
Oh.
of admissions
All right.
of Fit University.
There you go. The dean and the professor right there, back in school. But characters, right? Talking about
Yeah.
storytelling and pro wrestling. I mean, that's what we had to do. We had to stand out with some sort of gimmick
Right.
that was authentic to who we were. And at that time, for the both of us, trying to like break into the fitness scene through college students.
Right.
I felt like it was appropriate to be the professor. And you were the
Totally.
dean,
I was the
you know?
dean. Well, I mean, it was Fit University, so I had to be. And to like paint some color of what that was, Fit University for me was a nationwide community of college students. We had different chapters all across the country of students hosting different fitness classes, events, but all focused on fitness isn't just about what it looks like, it's about how it feels.
Yeah.
And it's also about having fun because we're in college. And so how do you balance having a healthy life while in college? And then Professor Stern, when we connected on Twitter, you were
It was just
doing
parallel. It was literally almost
Yeah.
identical. Ours was more on the product base. So
Right.
I had completed P90X. Again, thanks to my dad. He bought the VHSs. For those that don't know, that's like, the box. You put it in a VHS, VCR. And after 90 days, great results, very expensive product, very expensive diet plan, time committing. It was a lot for, an 18-year-old.
Right.
Right. And I thought about the audience that couldn't do it because of what we were going through as college students, financially, time commitment wise. So at that moment, I had just taken my first class in Cedar Hall basement. Shout out to Mary. I actually don't know where Mary is. I should find Mary because she was the spark. She was a lunatic, in the nice sense. Don't come after me, Mary. But like, Mr. Pilar, he at the time set this up, and it was a class, and I was an RA, and went in right before winter break. And again, never took a class before. Never did Soul Cycles. Rumble didn't exist. Didn't go to Barry's. This was my first experience in a no-frills space, and I was captivated right there. I was drawn into her energy, the movement. I don't remember the exercises, but I remember the feeling. And went home that winter break. Again, conclusion of P90X. I said, there's a hole in the market for the college student. Started writing programming and went back that semester. Started studying for my certifications. Approached residential life. Said, I'll teach for free to the student body. I want to learn, but I think I'm on to something.
Right.
The business school got wind of it. Shout out to Professor Buzza. And we produced curriculum. So this was our college-based product. The product was the first semester because the intention was to create the second semester and, have all of these spin-offs. It was DVDs for those that don't know.
I was about to say it was DVD. I remember I got the DVD and it with a band.
With a
Came
band.
With a band.
The nutrition guide was a cheat sheet. So it was more of like, how to eat healthy without like saying like eat 6 ounces of
Right.
raw chicken. It was like, don't eat raw chicken. That's not,
Full disclosure,
not
this
nutritional
not
advice,
endorsed by the Morning Movement Show.
but it was, healthy cheating habits essentially. And worked the entire semester 2012 with Professor Buzza, his class.
What year were you in college?
I was
Or
now
were you-
in my MBA.
Oh, you were in your
So
MBA,
I was
okay.
actively receiving my MBA as well as an advisor for this student body. And we had a class that was helping produce this product. Went after my MBA, took this product by myself, parents, house, and I was upstairs folding boxes and putting the DVDs into the slots and studying every Shark Tank interview and, researching competitors or, colleagues.
Right,
And
right.
that's where I came across your, community, and I was mesmerized by how you really did create, such a movement
Yeah.
amongst college students. And ultimately, college students don't have a lot of money,
Right.
and the product didn't necessarily fail. It just, I shifted from product to service, and I leaned more into myself as a trainer.
Yeah.
Found Orange Theory and started teaching 30 classes a week. So the product sort of started to sunset, and I loved teaching.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the passion.
Right.
So
Wow.
yeah.
What a time.
That was a quick journey through
That
time.
totally was. Well, and I'm curious to know of like, how do you think the threads or the roots that you planted then, like how do they exist today, or like how do they help shape you in terms of
Totally.
what you do today? I mean, because you work with, I mean, what, like thousands of
Thousands.
trainers?
Yes. We have about 1,000 globally right now through Japan, Kuwait, Dominican Republic, Australia. But it really goes back to my dad again from the P90X era. I still vividly could hear him. I've lost both my parents at this point. So everything I do, I try to make them proud. And he was this cheerleader through watching downstairs. I could hear it, Jillian Michaels on TV, Sean T's on TV, Tony, they're all on TV, and he's like, that's gotta be you. And he saw that for me before I saw it for me. I didn't think that was achievable. And he just always just said, just go for it. And I didn't have the confidence. I didn't know what the platform would be. I didn't know how I would get there. But again, paralleling that with pro wrestling, I was longing for it, and not necessarily for fame, but for reach to impact masses.
Totally.
And in the suburbs of New Jersey, I was reaching a large base in that crowd, but until I got to this mecca of a city, it really took on a life of its own. And I'm very fortunate, but I do wish they could see this era. Because I think they would be right here doing a Joy Flow with us.
Totally. Totally.
But that was the spin. Now I'm a dad. I've got 2 kids.
Right.
Presley, who's 4 years old, and Owen, who's 4 months old, and my wife Julie is in fitness as well.
Right.
So we really both embody a healthy lifestyle. And we were chatting about this. Really not about body image, right? Like we're very conscious about how we talk about our bodies in front of Presley, because she's a sponge. And it's amazing now watching her. She's like, I want to do my squats, I want to do my jumping jacks, and I want to go to the gym. So it's coming off. She's understanding like it's great to move your body.
Totally.
It's important to move your body and take care of your body, and not just your body, but your mind as well.
Right.
And so for her to feel that at 4 years old, which I felt, as a young teen,
Right.
hopefully has continued success, and she could take mayor and I could retire
Right.
and sit back.
Maybe
but
she goes president,
She could, you know?
one notch up.
I agree.
Maybe a
agree.
few more notches up.
But that's the through line is honestly, I saw my parents, and then I saw their unfortunate, demise. And my mom was very healthy and didn't, smoke cigarettes, didn't really drink. She would take my class twice a week, which was the best student-teacher relationship ever. And she unfortunately got hit with, the beast, cancer, and saw her struggle. And it just, at that era, my classes were the most powerful because I was going through hell.
Right.
And I was given a platform to reach an audience in New York City, and at the time living in Los Angeles, to remind you that this is a gift,
Yes.
this whole thing. And it's very, very special to do it.
Right. Right. I mean, it's the gift of just to be alive, and then
Yes.
B, the gift of movement as a means of caring for your body. I mean, one of my biggest missions in this industry is there's such a focus often, I won't say always, often on, well, this is about the aesthetic and how I look,
Sure.
and that's often leading the way. But if we get beyond that, of just this gift of life, of movement, of energy, just to sustain us and keep us strong and mobile.
100%. And I love this era of longevity and the push in this
Right.
wellness space. I think it's great. I think it could very quickly become toxic of like
Totally.
doing too much, and like I'm not ice bathing enough or red light therapy enough, or
Yeah.
like I'm eating too much of this, and like it is a long game
Right.
in the short game though, right? Like you got to think of it as it's what is best for you. What do you enjoy? If you don't enjoy boxing, if you don't enjoy yoga, it's okay.
Totally. Well, that was, I mean, with Fit You, one of my biggest goals with that was there are a million and one ways to be fit, to move your body. It's all about just trying things and finding
Right.
what works for you. And
That's-
it's also
that's it.
going to shift as time shifts and
Right.
as you shift.
Right. Your priorities will shift, and I think it's important to understand, like, at the end of the day, what we were going back to earlier, your diet isn't just your movement or
Right.
your food. It is the community that you surround yourself
Right.
with. And I think for a lot of people,
Yeah. Say it again.
you know, it's you have to surround yourself with, I'm not saying like-minded yes people, but people that have a similar ambition to get a lot out of life. And not saying materialistic, but I'm
Right.
saying a lot of fulfillment, a lot of joy,
Totally.
a lot of movement. So
Yeah.
I'm fortunate that I have a very core inner circle, specifically with my wife, who has that same passion.
Yeah.
But also a lot of my friends, my brothers. Like it's important that you aren't resisting what they're sort of feeding you. If it's negative news and you're engulfing that all day, you're going to become negative.
Right. Right. You can't help it. I mean,
help
it's
it.
just like energetic transference.
Right.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, it's about my kids. It's for me, my movement is how can I live to see their kids? Because I didn't get to see my grandparents. I saw one grandma, I love her, rest in peace at this point, but that bothers me that they don't have my parents. Like to no end. It just aggravates me. And so I have to use that pain as a purpose and think, well, if they didn't have it, I have to be it for their kids.
Right.
And so my movement is for them.
Yeah. So beautiful.
Thanks.
You said before that when your dad, would see Jillian Michaels and be like, "That's you," that you necessarily didn't see that in yourself. You maybe didn't have the confidence, but then look at you now is what I want to say.
Sure.
And how was that confidence built over time?
I think it's built on authentically failing. I think curriculum taught me you can't do this alone.
Yeah.
Because
yes.
I'm sure as you experience, you try to. And I think at the time of a startup, you're always trying to wear multiple hats to do a lot of
course.
things. But I think it's important to understand, like, to grow to the next level, you need around.
Yes.
Your garden needs to expand. But my confidence came from understanding that the authentic person that I'm putting on that stage is just a larger than life, example of who I am.
Right.
When we first started Rumble in New York City, first 6 months, I was a shell of the character I am now because I like to say imitate and then innovate. I was imitating, but it wasn't true to who I was. I was speaking a different way. I was dressing a certain way. I was vibing to what I thought was right for the brand, but it didn't feel authentic to who I was.
Yeah.
And until I started to allow Andy Stern from New Jersey come onto that stage, and until I opened the door of dealing with grief, dealing with cancer, then authentic connection started to happen, and then my audience started to grow.
Right.
They didn't care about what I was teaching. They didn't care about the music I was playing. They cared about what I was saying and how I was making them feel. Right. And for me, I needed to understand that all you need to be is yourself on a stage and let them in. Don't put on a show, because at any point in this, they will smell inauthentic.
Totally.
They will not trust what you're saying. So you need to just believe in yourself. What I didn't do 15 years ago, I can do now because I feel the most confident in my skin. I don't need to be the smartest, the fastest, the strongest. I don't need to be the toughest. I don't need to know the most about boxing. I just need to be confident in what I can present, educate what I can, motivate when I can, and be who I am so that somebody can hopefully connect their story and be like, that's what I want to do. Be the Mary to what I was 15 years ago.
Totally. I'm thinking about a story that you told me of your first interview going into a gym.
Yeah. 3-piece suit. It's not funny. Dress for the job you want, right? I didn't even know what the job was. Yeah, Robert Wood Johnson in New Brunswick. Christian was my hiring manager, and I wore a 3-piece.
I love it.
Got the job.
Got the job, y'all. 3-piece.
That was my first official paycheck teaching, and I always remind myself nobody showed up to the first class. And I remember standing in that room, calling my dad. I could literally know where I was standing and the vibe of it. And I said, "Dad, good news and bad news. good news is I made $26, but bad news is no one showed up.
Yeah.
And we went home and we watched The Price is Right. And that was, thankfully, they showed up the next class.
Well, I think it's so important for stories like that to be shared, especially in the world of social media that we're living in. And you see instructors, and as an instructor, there's this maybe like, unseen pressure that, oh, I have to like sell out all my classes, and
Sure.
everybody else around me is selling out all their classes. But like a lot of the times it's couple folks.
Yep.
Maybe no shows,
Yep.
and that is a completely natural and normal part of the process.
A lot of people, obviously, it's social media, right? They're going to show the highlights.
Right.
They're going to show, and that's okay. I want them to put out what they feel is best representation of them, but also there is that authentic self that needs to come out.
Totally.
There are the slower classes. I don't sell out every class. I'm not
Yeah.
going to sit here and be like, here's the wait list. I'm very fortunate that people show up for me, but I show up for them.
Right.
I give everything I can on every class, and that's not, patting myself on the back. That is me understanding that I give what I hope to receive, and that's what our relationship between me and my clients
Right.
has worked, because I'll be vulnerable up there if I'm tired, if Owen didn't sleep, or if I'm, grieving, or whatever it is. I'll let them in, they let me in,
Right.
and that's what has built this trust between us. But yeah, you're going to see a lot on social media. And,
Yeah.
and it does create a little bit of, I should be doing more. I should be, create my own brand, create a clothing line. Why don't I have the endorsement? I need more followers. And there's a part of that that's good. Empire energy, I like to say, is very could help drive you, but it could also really paralyze you, because you could always get engulfed in this destination happiness. Like, I'll be happy when.
Totally.
I'll be happy when. And I think for me, early on in fitness, I was destination happy. When I hit this many followers, when I make this much money, until I realized I was chasing other people's stories.
Yeah.
I had to write what I thought was successful. Once I wrote it and I obtained it and I felt it, that was success. Not the celebrities, not the followers, not the money. It was literally once I understood what I wanted. I'm not going to say what, it was just what I felt in my heart was success. I obtained it. That's successful.
That's success.
But most starting off will chase my story, your story,
Right.
what they see. They're always going to chase.
Which, to your point, right, the imitation to then innovation,
Innovation.
right? It's like you see something, oh, that's something that I am aspiring towards. That looks inspirational to me.
Totally.
And then along the path, you start to feel, oh, wait, maybe this
Maybe not.
is not the thing. And then you carve out your own way.
100%.
Yeah.
I think it's good. You should watch. You should always play up, right? Like, if you're not following, again, going back to who your circle is, if you're not surrounding yourself with people that potentially are higher than you in whatever you may be chasing, you're always going to be here.
Right.
Right. So it is okay to aspire. It's okay to imitate, because whatever you think got them to that level. But again, you have to innovate it, or else you're a carbon copy of what they are. And,
Right.
and that's what they want who you are.
Right. Their space is already taken.
Exactly. That character's already filled in the show.
Right.
You got to bring something different to this table.
Totally. Well, we have just a couple moments left. I know we're really running on the wire here. I want to ask our audience for a quick fire question here.
Quick
if
fire.
we could turn it to our audience for a question.
I'm a trainer. There so many people in New York are starting to become instructors. How would you say that you can really stand out as an instructor in a place like New York City? If there's one piece of advice that you could say with connecting with people, whether it's just the way that you're greeting someone, or a specific saying that you have, or a feeling that you like to create in the room, how would you connect with
Totally.
so many people?
Two quick ones. I know we're rapid fire. One, be in the lobby. Even if you're not teaching that class, meet the clients that are taking that class, right? First name, eye contact, ask them, how are you? Start to develop that. If you are teaching the class, immediately following it, how was it? Don't talk about you, ask them, because that's going to give them the platform to speak. And then you're going to start to build that trust. If you're not in the studios, social media is just as powerful, right? thanks so much for taking class. Shout out to Joe Ferraro if he's watching. One of our first trainers did this amazing, just thanks for coming. Every picture that I saw, he already commented. He was already on that. And it's making them feel seen. And that's how, he ultimately started to build his following. So being in the lobby and being on social media, 2 great platforms outside of the classroom.
Amazing. Great question. Yeah. Great actionable answer.
That's quick.
Thank you so much, Andy Stern. Where can folks find you?
At Andrew G. Stern.
Andrew G.
Pretty
Stern.
much everywhere. It's Andy the Mayor. If you ever see the Mayor.
That's him. Andrew G. Stern, thank you so much for tuning into the Morning Movement Show. Give it up for Andy, y'all, one more time. Such an honor. Have an amazing week. We'll see you next week on the Morning Movement Show. Tune in live. Thanks, y'all.